Welcome to the Monday Morning Mixtape. On this week's show, it's all Danzig all the time. We're going to be talking about Glenn Danzig's career in music and a little bit about his movies. We're going to talk about some band music in the middle of the show, and near the end of the show we're going to do a big review and kind of a retrospective look back at Danzig's first album. So, stay tuned. As I'm saying, it's Danzig 24/7, or well, at least an episode dedicated to Glenn Danzig, pretty much.
All dancing Danzig.
Yeah, so I suppose for anyone who's not familiar with Glenn Danzig, he's a singer, musician, movie maker,
songwriter,
comic book artist, and Jeet Kune Do practitioner and instructor,
and chest.
Yes, and chess, yes. I suppose I think most people probably know who Danzig is. He's gone down like internet history. There's loads of stuff which we'll get into over the years. But he started, I suppose, kind of like just giving a brief history of Glenn Danzig. He was born Glenn Allen Anzalone in fucking New Jersey. Yeah,
forget about it.
Tell you what, there we isolate ourselves from everyone in New Jersey. Or isolate? No, that's not the word.
What is the word you're looking for?
That we kind of like annoy them all at the point where they just switch off and they go kind of like, why are they stereotyping us?
Hey, forget about it.
Yeah, I'm going to go off and have a pizza and beat up a greasy monkey down the street that stole the pizza from me in the first place. Hey, Mark Wahlberg.
He's from Boston.
Ah, they're all the one.
Jesus Christ almighty, your stereotypes are all over the place today. But
anyway, yes. Danzig was born there. His mum worked in a record store. His dad was an ex-Marine who, I think he fixed TVs or something like that as well. But basically they introduced him to music. At a young age he started taking drugs. He was a bit of a wild kid. He went off to study art in college, and I think he went on to do art and photography in the New York Institute of Photography. He always wanted to be a comic book artist. But then he got into music, which just, I think it happens to everyone. Obviously not to that extent where it's kind of like, that kind of a career kind of change, but you go for one thing, you end up in another thing. His first band was The Misfits, who people, if you're not familiar, they basically invented horror punk. Danzig invented, but he set up The Misfits himself, was his idea. I won't get into the other guys that were, but Jerry Only is one of the guys that he ended up having a lot of trouble with. But after kind of like about 3 albums, a couple of years in the Misfits, he decided, because Danzig was self-taught with most of the stuff that he was into, like self-taught on the guitar, a lot of the art stuff and all that. He was one of these guys, when you look at him you can see it in it as well, because even say physically, one of the things that Danzig is known for, or was known for at the time, was he was a big guy. He was always fucking semi-naked when he was playing things. And this isn't a stage where like people, not like fucking Instagram kind of like things where a lot of people are fucking buff now and big. It's like in the fucking late 70s and the early 80s, people weren't fucking,
they weren't ripped to shreds. Basically,
Danzig was. He was fucking big for his time, you know. And that's beside the point. What was I going to say? But
I'm thinking about these pecs now. Yes, exactly. That's it's the hypnotic pecs of Danzig. Yeah.
But basically, that's just to show kind of like his commitment to stuff and the type of person that he is. But basically, the Misfits wasn't working out, so he just finished them. Because he wanted to set up a band where it was kind of like more musical, I suppose, kind of like,
less
but more technicalities in it, to get away from the whole punk kind of thing. So he made Sam Hain, which is sound, which was like slightly darker, a bit heavier, faster. And like the Misfits originally, when they started off, because a lot of people might know the Misfits from when they kind of reformed with Michael Graves as a singer, where they're kind of like punk pop, I suppose. Some people say that they're kind of heavy, but I think they're kind of more poppy, but they're not kind of like heavy head. The original Misfits had that kind of rock and roll kind of I think one of the things with Elvis, kind of like, or with Elvis, with fucking Danzig, that seems to be a constant was like Elvis and Roy Orbison. But like they had that kind of like doo-wop kind of thing mixed in with the punk.
Yeah,
a bit like the Ramones, I think, but way, way heavier.
Yeah.
And that's why sure the Misfits are popularised as well by Metallica covering some of their songs as well. But yeah, basically they then with Sam Hain, it was heavier, and then about the third album in, when they went off to do the fourth album, Rick Rubin was just starting off at Def Jam Records, and he was like interested in Danzig, and I suppose it sounds an awful like what you see in a lot of movies now, where this evil producer comes up and goes, hey, you know, you don't need the rest of these jerks in the band.
Yeah, you're too good for these guys. Come over to my record.
Which basically, and Danzig kind of went, yeah, you're right. But it was, they were having troubles at the time with the guitar player was just rubbish and the drummer was rubbish as well, so the whole thing was Rick Rubin said, look, why don't you just kind of like start a band with your own name, so you don't have to keep fucking changing names every time you have issues with people in the band or something like that, and then it can be just you, and you don't need an image with it as well, which is pretty much like a lot of people take the piss out of Danzig, but I think one of the things he's constantly said in interviews, and I do believe what you see is what you get. It's not an image, he doesn't put it on, he just is who he is.
Him. Yeah.
It's just him, and the music is just him, which a lot of people kind of criticise as well to a certain point with changes in musical style. Well, it's like, if you've been in the music industry for 40 fucking years and you've been doing the same thing, there's something wrong.
Exactly.
I think.
It gets
like the Rolling Stones or something like that. It's
shit.
like, you're fucking just not going to do the same shit. Yeah, you're just there for making money. But the whole thing then, yeah, Danzig was formed, which ended up, like, obviously still being around. But yeah, it would have been, I suppose, how would you describe the first record, which we'll be talking about later on near the end of the show, going into it in more detail, was more blues driven kind of doom metal, kind of like 70s inspired, I think, but at the time in the 80s when it came out, it was fucking unnaturally heavy. I don't think there was anything like it. And then Danzig's vocals, which are often compared to Elvis or
Roy Orbison,
or the other fella, The Doors, Jim Morrison.
The other fella.
Which, I think, like, I mean, I've seen him in interviews before, and he it's not that he gets annoyed about it, but he's just kind of like, people just use those because they don't have any other kind of reference. And it is the thing, it's very, because he is a very unique singer.
He's peculiar, yes.
And especially for the style of music, because it's metal music, heavy music, but with that style of singing. The only other band that I can remember really hearing doing something similar was, it's an English punk band called, why can't I think of the fucking name of it? Begin with a C. Creeper, yeah. That they did a couple of, Susanna's one, where he gets into that kind of nearly Meatloaf-esque singing, and it works really, really well. So if you have the voice to carry it, which Danzig had, and he still has.
Yeah, you need to have that really rich baritone.
Yeah. And like, a very impressive singer, amazing singer. And then like that second album was pretty much more the same. Well, kind of like a little bit more fun. Third album, my favourite album, fucking for, oh God, I was going to say For Whom the Bell Tolls.
What?
I don't know, my brain, I'm just having a massive brain fart. But How the Gods Kill,
yes, I
think is like, it's dark, it's intelligently, not that the other stuff isn't intelligently written, intelligent, me no brain, man.
No, so you're not intelligent today at all.
Okay, not, no. But yeah, and then kind of like, after that they kind of started progressing into kind of like more industrial metal, I think, to the fucking kind of fury of a lot of the fans. They're like, oh, why did these guys jumping on the bandwagon? And it's like, it's just development, changing the music, yeah. And he's kind of come back to more of the later albums are more kind of closer, I suppose, in relation to the early ones. But like, over his musical career, he's written songs for Roy Orbison, and he wrote a song for Johnny Cash as well. A lot of songs have been covered from, like, Mother was the breakout hit. For anyone who knows Danzig probably knows Mother.
Yeah, the song.
But the weird thing with it was that they did a live album and kind of like rare songs on it as well, called, what was it? Troll? I can't. Why is it not there? But basically the live album had Mother live on it, and Mother was originally banned by MTV because in the original video it like has Danzig ripping a chicken over, which he doesn't, and spilling blood on this semi-naked woman and doing like an inverted cross on her, and MTV were like, oh no, we can't, not in 87 or 88.
Yeah.
But then, kind of like when Mother Live came out, it became a massive hit, down to Beavis and Butthead to a certain kind of point. And it was just, they exploded, and this would have been kind of like when fucking album number 3 out, How the Gods Kill, which is a lot darker. and like more heavier and more, I think, a more mature album than, not that fucking kind of like first Danzig album is a classic album and it hasn't aged one bit. Well, How the Gods Kill just feels more brutal and probably more him, I think, at that stage in his life anyway. So a lot of people would have went on the backs of kind of like going from Mother to even like How the Gods Kill or When You Call the Dark. People are going, look, what the fuck is this?
Yes. How does this relate to this?
It's very kind of grim. Kind of like, where Mother is kind of like that arena kind of, and then as well when in the live video it was very much arena, but kind of like I suppose over the years, kind of like with Danzig, he's become a little bit of a, I don't know, comedy figure, kind of like on the internet to a certain degree.
I suppose, yeah. Well, I suppose that whole saga of the bricks didn't help.
There was a thing. I think it's because like Danzig as well, from my point of view, I think he's pretty much misunderstood. A lot of people see him as this serious guy. There's a video came out years ago called Danzig, the Home Movie, I think, to kind of like promote the first album. And we were only looking at it the other night, and it has like, say, them playing songs live intercut with like kind of like short interviews or behind the scenes bits. And there's a bit that if you look up Danzig on YouTube, you're going to find a lot of people mocking this thing where he's like Danzig's book collection, but it's quite obvious when you look at it in the context. He's taking the piss and he's like, welcome to my book collection.
Yes, but sitting there in his leather pants with his low top. Yeah,
and he's like, this book, and like, I mean, the guy is a very intelligent guy, and like he's got a wide selection of books, but people are always like, oh, he's this guy who's trying to be evil. It's like, I don't think he's trying to be evil. He's not trying to be. It's just like he's got that persona there with stuff, but it's he comes across to me as someone who's like in on the joke, especially after, we'll get to it a bit, after Verotica came out and stuff. And as well, he appeared in Aqua Teen Hunger Force as himself after the whole bricks thing on the internet, and as well kind of like
you don't do
Portlandia.
You don't have a sense of humour about yourself.
And like, I've seen a lot of interviews with him when he's in the right mood and he's been asked the right questions where he seems to be really, really funny and he's laughing stuff off, or if he's into stuff. There is like Shudder did a series, people don't know, Shudder is a horror movie, kind of like Netflix for horror movies. And on just before Verotica came out, they did a half an hour special on Danzig, doing interviews with him, talking about these movies that he likes and special effects. He is smiling the whole way out through it, and he's really engaged, and he's really, really funny, and he's like just into it. And he comes across as a really, really, really nice guy. And a lot of the interviews that I've seen, but sometimes in the interviews people are asking him stupid fucking questions and he just doesn't seem to suffer fools gladly.
Yeah, so you get frustrated with shit like that.
Yeah, like, I mean, Henry Rollins is the same as well. And like, I mean, if you're getting asked the same fucking questions for 40 years of your life, like, I mean, I was reading...
At some stage you're going to run out of patience, aren't you?
I was just reading through... with like, I mean, the whole thing with the Misfits as well, there was like, it was not a nice breakup thing, to the point of that there was lawsuits for years going on between them, kind of like instigated by Danzig and the bass player Jerry only, and it resolved itself, and then they ended up kind of like fucking nearly 20 years later playing a live gig together. But like, I mean, a lot of it does seem to be kind of like Danzig formed the Misfits. He was the brains behind the Misfits, and then these other people went on making money off it afterwards, which I can see his kind of point of view being a bit pissed off about, that these people are making money off the merchandise from my designs. But I came across that he was the bad guy in it with some of the Misfits fans things. Whereas I think it's just because he doesn't do much press and he doesn't.
Yeah, if you're the one staying quiet the whole time, people are going to be able to spin it whatever way they want.
But like the whole thing, even just reading just beforehand, before we started recording this, an interview with him in Kerrang. Kerrang, I think, is garbage anyway. But one of the questions, they said, looking back now that you've buried a hatchet, do you regret the years of legal battles over the Misfits? It must have been pretty energy sapping and distracting. And like, I mean, that's a ridiculous fucking question to ask anyway. First, it's a, I'm so, that's like a pop star fucking question, kind of thing where people are lied through their teeth going, we're all friends now. To which Danzig replied, no, I don't regret it at all. Things have to be worked out, and if someone is being difficult, you have to do what you have to do. That's a weird question. It's kind of like, but I've seen it, like, there's a couple of famous interviews that are on YouTube as well, where he has been asked the most ridiculous questions just after. There's a famous one with Henry Rollins where he's standing on the side of a stage, literally just finished the gig, he's out of breath, he's pissing sweat, and some guy comes over and sticks a microphone in his face, and Rollins is like, would you please mind, just give me a bit of space, face, and you can ask me whatever stupid questions you want in a half an hour, just let me. But it was painted at Henry Rollins as being difficult and an asshole.
Yeah, it's like, I'll just come off stage for a perform and let me mop the sweat off my fucking face first.
I think to a certain degree that's what's happened with Danzig over the years with things. But as well, there is some of the funnier stuff as well. Like there is a guy did a comic. I've never read the comic book, but I remember hearing about when it came out. I must buy it at some stage, called Henry and Glenn Forever, where it's basically the two